What the fuck was that? Yes, sir! Don't be fucking dumb! Don't do it! That was one of the best moments from our first live album reaction to ASAP Rocky's Don't Be Dumb. What a moment with the entire Patreon community. If you guys want to check out the full live album reaction, you know the drill. All you guys got to do is go to the pinned comment, and it'll take you straight to the Patreon page. But guys, welcome into the official review. As we said, Lou, on Friday, wait for our final thoughts for this video on the new album.
Sir.
So how do you feel? More listens over the weekend? More confidence in the track list? What are you thinking, bro?
I mean, listen, this was a long time coming, right? Rocky had been through so much leading up to this release. Obviously, all of the delays for the album,
Yes, sir.
the leaks he experienced, all the legal trouble. Like, there was a lot going into this, and I think fans expected a lot, especially considering how much Rocky has continued to evolve throughout his discography. So this was going to be a major moment. But we're going to get things started, guys, with the artist performance. Starting off with the intro order of protection. I feel like Rocky's rapping like he has something to prove. I just wish he went a bit harder energy-wise after that beat drop.
That's what we said in the live album.
And I feel the same way about that. I will say this, though. Cool performance there. I feel like the verses were a bit short-lived. It's mostly like refrain and chorus, but it was a cool way to open up the album. I'll say that.
It was a great
Then
intro.
we jump into the more anthemic Rocky performances, right? You have that run of like Helicopter and Stole Your Flow, where Rocky is trying to make these anthems. He's coming in with these signature Houston-inspired flows, some hype ad-libs, charismatic mic presence as you would expect from ASAP Rocky. So those are pretty cool. I also like that he has this intense tone all throughout Stole Your Flow. And even getting those like chopped and screwed vocals towards the end of that song, that's what I look to Rocky for, right? Is like how dynamic could you be with the vocals and how entertaining could you make these performances? And on that first couple of track run, I was satisfied with that. But how did you feel about the following tracks, looking at the more laid back performances like a Stay Here for Life or a Playa?
Well, even at something like Punk Rocky, right, where his vocals get lighter, this is something that we're used to from Rocky, and it's something that I've always loved in his catalog, right? Going back to previous tracks, for example, like an LSD in the past, I feel like that's kind of reminiscent of something like a Punk Rocky and him using like the same sundress cadence. So I found those were actually good vocal performances. Even something like Playa, for example, we said this in the live album reaction, where those flows are more playful, they're more lighthearted. It feels like that's maybe a cut you'd find off of like a Live Love ASAP, but now in the Don't Be Dumb era, it follows like a same cadence and it follows the same type of like rhythm and timing. So I really enjoyed that. But what's interesting about the middle of the track list is I feel like there's a lot of ups and downs as far as like energy and tempo goes, especially when you go to a song like Shut the Fuck Up, for example, and that's one of the most like manic and aggressive Rocky performances that I've arguably seen in his entire catalog, and I really liked it. And I feel like maybe for some Rocky fans it might be too much, or they might not gravitate towards a performance like that, but especially the way that he comes in, he's angry, he's in your face, and he's ultra confident, and I wanted to see that Rocky on the album too.
I'll be honest, I wasn't too big on that performance just because, and I'll say this, I actually did like the song. It was one of those left field songs that I feel like really worked for him, especially because it accomplished what Testing set out to do. It felt more punk rock than Punk Rocky itself. It had that manic energy, but I just feel like his vocals didn't have as much of an impact, and he kind of got a bit drowned out from the beat. Like for me, like the production was really what carried everything.
But
with that track.
I feel like, especially after Testing, and you heard it in Testing, like Rocky's voice has changed over time, especially since he's been younger, right? And with his previous studio albums in the beginning of his catalog, I feel like I prefer his voice on those albums. But for the most part, going into Shut the Fuck Up, I get what you're saying. Like vocally, it might not hit like that, but especially for the experimentation side of things and the fact that I actually do really like this record, I'll give him a solid performance on it, bro. It was daring to do it, and dude, he's like literally fucking shouting at you. Another interesting performance comes off of Air Force, where you're getting these fucking tempo switches throughout the song. At certain portions within the record, he's rapping super quick, he's on beat, he's super confident, and then after that, it goes back into sort of the singing Rocky that you might find off of a Punk Rocky. So how did you like a performance like that?
That wasn't one of my favorites, to be honest with you. Something that I did really fuck with was his hazy and patient delivery on the song Whiskey. He just sounds intoxicated, and it's cool to get him to sort of turn up 1 minute into the song where you hear him rap a bit faster. He's pronouncing his S words with the SH, like still. And that was just a solid display of charisma from Rocky. And another example of, to me, him thriving in his comfort zone, which you kind of see throughout this track list, is where he does best. On the softer song, Don't Be Dumb / Trip Baby, I feel like that was a song that was supposed to evoke a lot of emotion, be very reflective, and his inflections just didn't really, provoke any emotion or feeling for me. It just kind of felt a bit empty as a performance.
I like that performance actually, and I like the way that it switches throughout the track and how he attacked those two different beats differently. I found that to be a cool performance, at least on my side. When it comes to a song like The End and where he's getting more meditative, it almost reminds me of a flow and cadence that I really enjoyed off of like a Canal Street. Like that's the first song that I thought of when I listened to a song like The End, where Rocky's contemplating, he's reminiscing, and he's talking about more of like, I'll get to more into that into the content, because that's a big song for the track list when it comes to content matter. But one thing that's stopping me from really going all the way with this artist performance score was low-key the hooks, bro, because even going back to Testing, right, not too long ago, well, it's been 8 years, but regardless though, it's his previous studio album. When I look at an ASAP Forever, when I look at a Praise the Lord,
Fuck Sleep,
like I look at a Fuck Sleep, the hooks on those songs, bro, are absolutely infectious. And to be honest with you, I felt like there was lacking memorable hooks off of this album. The only one that really stuck with me was actually the P.D. Pablo interpolation off of Helicopter, where he interpreted P.D. Pablo's hook off of, I believe it was Raise Up, and I liked that one because it was energetic, it was in your face, I could see that going crazy in the cloud in the crowds.
Also,
but
don't forget about the Brent hook, obviously on Stay Here for
but
Life. That's a serious one.
But you know what's crazy is that was actually sampled. That's a sample.
It's an interpolation?
No, it's a sample.
Oh, it's a Brent sample.
It's a Brent sample. Yeah, that was supposed to be off of Icon, but then he ended up using it for it.
Okay, well, then it's not a sample because it's not officially released music. Like,
true, but it was supposed to be, from what I saw off of who sampled and like digging deeper into like the Genius annotations, that was supposed to be a song called Moon off of the new Icon album. Regardless, though, ended up making
still
Don't
a
Be
performance,
Done. But even like something like Stole Your Flow, right? Like people were really hyping up that song and that hook in particular, but the hook follows the same like melody and the same rhythm as the rest of the verses, so I had a hard time like sort of distinguishing it there. And then the only other one that I really liked was No Snitching. That's the only other hook that I enjoyed off of this album, but for the most part I really paid attention to the verses.
Yeah, I mean, the especially when it mattered, I feel like the hooks didn't have much of an impact. Looking at like a Punk Rocky, for example, you should have a catchy hook for that type of record,
like
where
you did with
he's
a
singing
Sundress,
primarily. Right? Yeah, that should be the objective. But I feel like the vocal tracks overlap on that song. They feel a bit clunky, and there's nothing really unique going on melodically from Rocky. And that song, to me, lost steam pretty fast.
Actually, a grower on me. That song's a
well,
grower.
you kind of always liked it. His best performance to me comes on the bigger banger, the biggest banger on this album, Stop Snitching. I feel like that's where Rocky has had his most animated. He sounds fired up from the way he's projecting his vocals louder than usual, the doubling effect on his voice, him rapping at different speeds. That was a reminder of peak Flacco to me. Like that,
that's a top tier performance. Yeah. Even something like No Trespassing, bro. Yes. And the way that he catches, because those drums were so unorthodox for the drop, and like the way that he catches that flow like right off the bat, it was gross, bro. Those are arguably like that's probably the best 2-track run off of the album for me as far as performances go. But I mean, even looking at a hook, for example, I had a note, I believe it was on Playa, the whole like ball, like that whole like repetition on it. I don't know how I feel about it. I prefer the verses and the introduction on the song and the way that Thundercat like intros it rather than like getting into the hook, which should arguably probably be the best part of that song. But overall, I gave him a great rating, bro. I thought he did what he did, bro, and he fucking showed up. There's so many good performances off of here, but a couple of things like lack of memorable hooks or maybe certain songs that could have had a bit more energy, but nonetheless, like, what stopped me from giving it that amazing rating is those factors, bro. But I gave it a great rating.
Yeah, I was a bit more mixed on the performances. I feel like he doesn't hone in on his strengths consistently, and when he does try to show some growth, it just doesn't land the way that he'd want to. I feel like a lot of his range mostly came from his beat selection and his desire to sing on a few tracks, which again didn't really cut it for me. For such a dynamic vocalist, I did expect him to kind of just be a bit more captivating and unpredictable from track 1 to 17. So I gave it a good rating here.
Perfect.
Let's talk about the features on this
sir.
album. Big topic of conversation, like it always is for Rocky. People were disappointed when that billboard came out and they saw which eclectic bunch of names you got, but At the same time, yes, with an album being hyped up for this long, maybe you expect more star power, maybe you expected the Rihanna feature, whatever the case may be, this made sense for an A$AP Rocky album.
Of course it
especially
did.
for one where he's trying to make this collage of different genres, different sounds. You got artists from different eras, different genres. It was a cool blend, and obviously the feature list includes names like Tyler the Creator, Westside Gunn, Doechii, Brent Faiyaz, will.i.am, Thundercat, Gorillaz, and more. Let's get started with the first feature that appears on the album, Brent Faiyaz on Stay Here for Life. To me, he knocked it out of the fucking park, bro. I love those faint and emotive vocals. The layering of both his vocal tracks was beautiful. I'm also happy that he wasn't just on the hook. He ended up getting a full verse towards the end, and bro, he showed the fuck out to me.
Yeah, he showed the fuck out. But yeah, going back to the thing that I was talking about, this is actually his chorus off of Full Moon, Fallen Tokyo off of Icon, that released back in 2025. So if you guys want to go listen to that full record, it's fucking incredible. Have you listened to the full song?
Nope.
Lou, you're gonna really fuck with it. But I thought that to be arguably one of the best features off of this album, and I like the way that the back and forth was happening between him and Rocky. I thought that was great, and the way that they placed those features. Someone else I want to talk about is probably, you want to go Doechii? We could do Doechii.
Yeah, if you want to just jump around. I was going to go in order, but we could jump around.
I see. Yeah, we could go jump
That's
around.
okay. Yeah, Doechii on Robbery.
Braggadocious performance, and it feels like she's screaming at you at a jazz bar.
Yeah, I don't know if she's screaming. I feel like she's more monotone
Yeah,
for the
true.
majority of her performance, and then you kind of get like this cinematic, old school spoken word flow for a little bit that I found interesting. My issue with a song like Robbery is I didn't like the way the song progressed. I feel like if you were going to have that whole robbery skit and set piece, have that towards the beginning. Don't put it 2.5 minutes in. It just kind of made the song a bit confusing. I didn't
But you see,
feel
I
like
like that because I like that it's abrupt. Like robberies are usually abrupt in the way that they happen. So
for sure, but it
happens,
feels like a
midway
love
through.
song, and then like out of nowhere, there's this
Because
robbery.
that's what's cool,
that goes
right?
on.
Like even I think about a movie like Pulp Fiction, for example, and the diner scene, right, where like they're about to rob. You don't think that's gonna happen, and then bang, like bro breaks conversation, and you have a full blown robbery. Like that's the way that I kind of felt about Robbery, where I kind of like was starting to understand where it was going, but I like that abrupt nature about the record and how they kind of just threw it in there. But we'll talk about a bit. We'll talk about that in the content.
And yeah, we could also speak about the back and forth that Doechii had with Rocky. That was interesting for that part of the song. And
Also, cool wordplay like this. Say that there, leave that there. We both rock Flintstones. They bound to stare. So obviously the Flintstones plays into like the rocks that they're wearing, and obviously the show the Flintstones, and they live in fucking rock. So I found that to be a cool little wordplay and line
cool.
there. But
yeah, I mean, I didn't like the moi kisses that she threw into the verse. That kind of was a bit unsettling. But yeah, her confidence explodes through the speakers. It was cool for what it was, and the whole Bonnie and Clyde dynamic I thought worked. It's not a song I see myself revisiting. To be
no,
honest
it's
with
not
you.
a song that I'm gonna be going back to all that much. But I appreciate it for what it is on the track.
But yeah, okay, let's go to Thundercat, who is the second feature on the album. He's on Playa.
What a great feature.
Yeah, subdued, chill performance, nice harmonies on it. Pretty minimal presence, but it landed.
He's there for the
landing.
first 30 seconds, and then he intros Rocky. But I felt like it was a nice touch, especially for a smoother track off of the album. That was some good curation there. But you want to talk about Slay Squad, bro?
We could talk about Slay Squad.
What
yeah,
a fucking feature, bro.
cool.
You didn't
Cool.
like it?
It was cool. Brahim has a very short verse. Nothing memorable about it to me besides
Kylo
the bar.
K's verse
They
on there
say
is
Haitian
crazy.
eating cats. I make sure my dogs eat. That was a wild one. Kylo K sounding like a demon. Not much else
But
to
it
take out
plays
of
into
that.
the song itself.
Yeah,
I like
it works
that.
into like
Super-
just the chaotic nature of the song. It's cool.
I really like that feature. I thought it was super
Let's
dynamic.
talk about the whole stop snitching situation. I don't know if you knew this. There's 2 versions of this song.
Okay.
The second version is on YouTube. And I was wondering the whole time, I'm like,
Where's Boss Mandilo?
where's Boss Mandilo? And you get his verse on the YouTube version of the song. And Boss Mandilo is also on the DSP version, but he just has like a couple lines at the start and then he gets brought back in later. But I was just so happy that he chose the right version, bro.
Oh, bro.
Because Sauce Walka on Stop Snitching, he left Earth on this performance, bro. He went absolutely insane. Once you hear the he adds, bro, he starts adding words to the rhyme
breath
scheme.
control was
The
gross.
fast flow is just even more impressive as he goes into that second half of the verse. And I like that the bars really have some weight to them. Like the way that he calls out A$AP Rocky with the line, "How could you snitch on your brother when that was the person that's keeping your rent paid?" Also another sick line from him. Guys will lie to their mama and daddy, but go tell the truth to an officer.
Yeah,
some of the most
shit.
memorable bars of the entire album to me. And yeah, Boss Mandilo, like I said, 5-second moment on the YouTube version. Not that great of a verse.
I
to
didn't
me.
even listen to it yet, to be honest.
Rapping
I
about.
didn't know.
Yeah.
I was confused, right? Because we went into the first live album reaction and we were saying, bro, we just posted this. There was a fucking billboard that went up today saying that Boss Mandilo was going to be on the album. And so we're bumping it. We think it's Boss Mandilo, but then we're listening to it and we're like, it's not fucking Boss Mandilo. And then on DSPs, it says it was Sauce Walka.
Yeah.
So regardless, best feature on the entire album. I want to talk about
West Side Gun.
You want to do Tyler, West Side Gun, Will I Am?
Yeah, let's do West Side Gun just because people were disappointed. Everybody wanted the West Side Gun verse, and instead we just got
ad-libs at
a
the end.
crazy compilation of ad-libs. You got the grrr, you got the boom, 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 boom. You got it all. You got all his signature ad-libs. It was cool, but it's just like if you're gonna put him on the billboard, I'd rather you put Sauce Walka, who has a real feature, than a West Side Gun, so that our expectations aren't really like tampered with like that. You know what I mean? So I feel like we were set up with disappointment
and you know what?
for
He
that.
could have had a great feature at the end if he had a full verse. That's the thing, is that you could have probably stuck a crazy West Side Gun 16 at the end of that song, and it would have worked perfectly.
On the same song, you have Damon Albarn from Gorillaz, only has a few lines, but
it's very
I feel
minimal.
like those psychedelic vocals complement the atmosphere of the song really well.
Were they layered with Rockies at a certain point too? I felt like maybe I picked that up.
Yeah,
at a certain...
they were, but he also had his own.
He
time.
had his own section as well
Yeah.
throughout it. Same thing with Jessica Pratt, for example, another vocalist off of this album. We saw them collaborate on the past on different records, and I felt like it was a great way to end off the album with her vocals, bro.
Yeah, super ethereal vocals, sounded very vintage. When I first heard the song, I'm like, is this a vintage like soul sample chop? Like, what am I
But
really
there is a
listening
soul
to?
sample chop.
There
with it.
is,
Yes.
there is, but it's separate from what Jessica
Yes, but that's
does.
what's cool about it, though, is that you think it's Jessica that's doing the
Yes.
soul sample, but at the end of the day, she only has the third verse and the bridge on that record.
But
and
she also
closes off the album.
does her own version of the chorus, which
Yes.
is the sample itself. So that was a cool little play there. Let's talk about Will I Am, because people were like, I was one of those people.
Yeah,
like, I'm
do
like,
it,
bro, what the fuck is Will I Am doing on a,
What
on
a
a Rocky
verse.
album in 2026? And he killed it. He was one of the best performers on this album. I like his performance, especially from a songwriting perspective, right? Because he's rapping about the world moving away from religion and how people are still dealing with police brutality and how that's still prevalent all across the states. And
Yeah.
I don't love the reverb on his vocals. That was like one thing I had, but really cool performance.
Yeah, it's crazy because he has like this dystopian view on society at the moment, and there's almost this feeling of, and he says it in the verse, well, guys, listen, it's fucking happening. Everything's going to shit, but don't worry. It's supposed to be going like this, and everything will be good at the end of the day. So I love how he's talking also about the youth and how there's still a bunch of inspiration in the youth and how they should move forward. Anyways, great fucking verse. I'm going to stop yapping. You guys should go read it off on Genius. But shall we end off with Tyler? Do
We
do it?
have Tyler and Jazzy. Tyler and Jazzy.
Tyler and Jazzy. So
Yeah.
Jazzy was on Fish and Steak, and so was Tyler. How did you like them both?
You know what? Anytime I see Tyler, the Creator, on a feature list, I'm going to get hyped. He usually brings his best shit to the table. This one was kind of just cool. It was a more of a smooth, laid-back feature from him. He kind of also recycled a line off of POV on the Clips album where it's like sunroof opens up like it's therapy. He had like a very similar line on POV, so I'm like, this is rare for Tyler. Like, this was maybe a bit of a lazy move,
but you have
it
some
is
cool,
what it is.
Yeah, but you have some cool cultural references within this
I also,
verse.
just to stick on the Tyler performance, the second verse, the sung part from Tyler, it wasn't hitting for me. I feel like
an
that was
Igor
pretty weak.
performance. Like, it sounded like one of his
Didn't
Igor
sound
voices.
as polished as an Igor performance.
Regardless, though, I was cool with it. Cool callbacks to Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible within the verse. The Sarah Lee soup bar was pretty cool. And then after that, the reference to Anita Baker. So you had some cool cultural references within the verse. Like you said, though, it's not a Who Dat Boy or potato salad performance,
Yeah.
but I'll take it. You know,
cool.
I'll go for it.
Jazzy, yeah, cool, quick feature on Fish and Steak. Wasn't necessary. Kind of just felt like it was thrown in for the sake of having a hook on the song, which we've seen in the past with Tyler and Rocky songs where their chemistry is the most lively when there is no real hook. where it's just them being able to go at it verse for verse.
But on
or
Who
bar
That
for
Boy,
bar.
though, there was a hook, though.
There
Like,
was,
I'd rather
but
they have
potato
just attacked
salad,
it.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Didn't
for
need
sure.
it.
You didn't need it.
But yeah, listen, I like the range of artists that you're having feature on you. It was a very original feature list. Some of them underutilized. Some of them had contributed to some of the biggest highlights on the album. Ultimately, most people showed up. I had a great rating for
I have
the
a great
features.
rating as well. I thought it was super solid. And, you know, when I saw the feature list, I'm like, okay, this makes sense for a Rocky album just because of the range and the way that I feel like certain rappers were going to have chemistry with them. So, fire feature list. But let's go on to the content matter section of the album.
Guys, we're taking a quick break from the review to talk to you about our sponsor for this video, Gametime. And listen, I'm really hyped to be using Gametime this year because of how much crazy entertainment 2026 has on the way. And talk to us about some of the crazy features they have.
Well, listen to this, guys, all right? 2026 started off with two massive announcements. Don't be dumb in the fall off. We got the World Cup this year. I'm going to be using the app because especially like as a user that's used different ticketing services, I never liked how they weren't transparent about their prices, right? Because you look at a ticket price for one seat and then you go to checkout and $50 million is added on top of my total. I'm there, I'm like,
Where do these fees come out
Where
of?
am I getting this, you know? But with Gametime, it's sick because everything is accounted for. The price I see is the price I get. I also really like that I have a seat view of everything that I purchase. So, for example, if I want to go to the Fall Off concert, but I'm in New York, I'm from Montreal, I've never been to Madison Square Garden, but now I could look at the seat and I could look at my surroundings and it'll make me sort of make a better decision on where I'm sitting within that said location. I really like that. I like how they also have a lowest price guarantee rate, right? So example, you go to Gametime and you find a cheaper price for that said seat, they'll give you 110% of the difference, bro. Like that's absolutely ridiculous. I like how they look out for their customers and I'm excited to use the application this year.
So if you guys are down for the easiest experience there is when it comes to buying tickets, all you have to do is download the Gametime app, create an account, and on us, $20 off your first purchase thanks to Gametime when you use code NFR. That's just NFR, no podcast, nothing else to it. Simple as that. Thank you guys, and let's keep on going with the review.
This was going to be a huge topic of conversation, Luke, because in previous Rocky interviews, he mentioned on multiple occasions how he was really going to focus on his pen throughout the entirety of the album, how he didn't want to have any filler within it, and how he's become more mature as an artist within the process of creating this album. So with that being said, how do you feel as a Rocky fan going into this? Because we've been waiting for 8 years. We wanted to hear what Rocky's been up to for the past 8 years. Do you feel like it accomplished that?
I don't think he achieved the songwriting growth that he claimed was going to be, witnessed on this album, to be honest with you. At one point towards the first half of the track list, we were kind of talking in the reaction of like, okay, maybe like the main narrative thread here is Rocky battling between continuing to live this reckless player lifestyle, but also settling down as a father, as a husband, as a family man. And even though you see flourishes of that, it's kind of scattered all over the place. There's no real like conclusion or like set point to make that theme come alive. So I feel like if that was the idea, it wasn't really like delivered properly.
There could have been more topical focus like throughout the entire track list, which I agree on. But
Speaking of that, one of the only songs where you actually do have topical focus is like a Stop Snitching, if you really think about it.
Or like a Whiskey, for example. Like that was a song that I went back into the songwriting and speaking about that narrative that we're both on top of right now. He has this line which kind of confirms our suspicion in the live album reaction: how to be a pimp, how to be legit, and live to see this shit and die with what you pick. So it's interesting because Rocky's speaking about which way should he go with a fork in the road, right? Does he consider with the old Rocky style and like that like old hustler mentality and him, being with all kinds of women, and then after that, does he dedicate himself to being the billionaire mogul and family man that he set out to be? And throughout the rest of the verse, it's interesting because he speaks about how, these quick one-off hookup relationships don't interest him anymore, leaves him feeling empty, how he pays more attention to the real things in his life. So I think there were certain moments in the album that kind of touched upon it. But like you said, Lou, I think there was more that could have been done throughout the track list.
Lacking a lot of depth, and it's like a lot of the superficial, like fly shit is still present, which which I don't really care if it is or isn't. Like, that's where you go to Rocky for, is for the flexing, right? Looking at Helicopter, him flexing about being an innovator, flexing about his Puma deal, how he'll pop you if you fuck with him. All the basic content also follows him Stole Your Flow, where he's rapping about making a few mil to headline a festival. A big talking point also for the songwriting here are the Drake disses, because they're apparent, and like, sure, some people are gonna say, "Oh, you're reaching. It's subliminal. It's up." No, listen to Stole Your Flow, bro. There are several shots at Drake, from him stealing his bitch to him saying guys are getting BBLs. Obviously, a reference to BBL Drizzy.
Yeah.
How people are not spending time with their kids. It's all too convenient for it to not be about Drake for that track.
But you expected that, though, before going into the album. And I will say this, like,
it's just like, so much time has passed at this point.
Time has passed, but also there's previous messaging in other albums that I feel like he's maybe recycling here. Because, for example, on a song like Stole Your Flow, the whole concept of that record is how everyone's biting his style and how he did it first. He's been rapping about the same thing, let's say, since Live Love ASAP. And as much as I could appreciate that, and as much as I think like his fans do see him as a trendsetter, and he sees himself as this mogul, and I do too. You know, Rocky's one of the first guys to like really, like, alongside a Kanye, Young Thug in the 2010s, like carry the fashion shit and to carry all of these new brands into place. At the same time, like, if we're going to be talking about new concepts and new themes, let's go there. You know, like for a Stole Your Flow, I'm cool on something like that. A song where I feel like there was a lot of topical focus, like you said, was a Stop Snitching, right? Because both Rocky and Sauce Walka on the DSP version obviously play into that theme, play into the theme about how, you know, your boys will switch up on you and how you have to protect yourself and kind of like make you feel ashamed for snitching and that whole topic.
Also,
right?
how it's like become a generational thing where it's like now you're almost getting like praised for snitching, and how people, the street code has kind of shifted as time has gone on. So I feel like that was really interesting. I want to talk about some sus bars on the album. This is something that we do within every
honestly,
album review.
I was gonna do it, but I knew you had the counter loop.
All right, so this one again, it's about the placement of it and how it could be easily misunderstood. My bitch badder than my toddler. Like, bro, come on. You could have phrased that a million different ways if you really wanted to.
And you know what's crazy too is that I feel like the community has been so divided off of this bar. I believe it was IDK that tweeted out that it's a fucking crazy bar, and everyone was quote retweeting him saying,
it's not that crazy, bro. It's kind of weird.
What are we talking about?
Weird. Also, another one. If she curvy, just like Steph Curry, gotta take your shot. Like, it's the placement of the words that made them sound so sus.
Like,
bro.
Is she curvy like Steph Curry? Or are you trying to take your shot like Steph Curry?
Yeah.
Anyways, I get what you're saying though. But
Another one that just felt outdated. I'd be with your bitch late night, James Corden. Like, bro, like this guy hasn't been relevant for so long. Like, people probably forgot about his late night show.
That was like a 2018 bar.
Yeah, it's like,
that
bro,
was a 2018.
You could have changed it up, bro, for the 2026 album. Something else I do want to focus on is the track "The End," because some people will argue there's the best songwriting on the entire album on this track. And you could tell that as soon as he starts his verse, he has a lot that he's trying to get off of his chest, right? He's talking about praying to God, his spirituality, how crazy it is that the clan is still around. And my issue is that he kind of loses focus and starts going all over the place from one line to the next. Like, he rushes these different ideas, and it becomes kind of a disaster, bro. It goes from like how he died for his sons to global warming to school shootings in the hood. Like, it's just like, this is sensory overload, and like, you're not delving into these topics with any depth. And there was the same thing with Don't Be Dumb Trip Baby, where it's a message to Rihanna and how he wants to stay committed to her, but all the lyrics are so vague and inconsequential, and I'm just left there like, well, what's the point if you're not really gonna go beyond the surface level?
Yes. I will say this though, when it comes to The End, I understand what you're saying, because I felt the same way when I redid the listen and I went through Genius and I looked at all the annotations and I put my notes together. The thing is, I kind of like that, because it almost feels like Rocky is having not a panic attack, but like he's in front of his therapist and he's trying to get as much shit off of his chest, right? And I could kind of understand what you're saying too, in the sense
the ideas are rushed, bro. The ideas are super
Like, what do you want him
rushed.
to do,
It's
bro?
one
Talk
line
about
after
global
another.
warming and how, like, bro, like, the government's controlling it? Like, I'm not
you're
sure,
just saying
you know?
global warming, then you're moving on to something else like 2 words later.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
but
I'm
rappers
just saying.
always do that.
No, they don't
though.
always do that. If you're gonna talk about a certain subject, have a bit of focus on
No,
it.
I
It
think
didn't make
I think
sense.
that's a bit of a nitpick, Lou. Like, you can't make a whole album of fucking global
That's not
warming.
a nit. I never said to do that. But if you're gonna bring up a serious subject, at least expand on it a little bit. Ultimately, I feel like given how many life-altering experiences Rocky has been through over the years, from him facing 24 years in prison to his friend pressing charges against him getting locked up in Sweden, him becoming a father and settling down, I just feel like he didn't touch on many of these experiences in an elaborate or meaningful way. And for that reason, I went with a mid rating for the content.
I went with a good rating. I think that it could have been a lot higher of a rating if you would have, let's say, dove into these topics with more detail, but I got that, and I thought I got strong writing cuts. Again, it's a good rating. It's not a great, amazing, or perfect rating. I feel like mid-content is just like everything is surface level for me, and it's just bland, you know? But there was development there, but I felt like there's more that could have been done. But regardless, though, you'll somewhat understand the concept of the album if you go through it. Let's go into the production.
What's the concept of the
I
album?
explained it to you at the beginning
I
of
don't
the
think
content.
it's a fully fleshed concept, but
That's your opinion. Let's go into the production. Production for me was arguably one of the biggest standouts of the entire album. I felt like this was where Rocky had to strive to, because in his previous albums and studio albums, if you got a weak produced Rocky album, now you're in serious problems.
it's never been the case.
It's never been the case.
Still not the case.
It's still not the case with this.
Yeah.
Serious sample flips, bro, throughout this album.
Shout out to all the producers that worked on this, from Rocky himself to Digital Nas, T Minus, Zach Fogerty, Cardo Got Wings, Take a Day Trip, Frank Dukes, Harry Fraud. No Clams Casino, which was a bit disappointing. A lot of people, including us in the live reaction, thought that he did Whiskey Release Me just because that had that cloud rap sound, but he's nowhere on this track list. And listen, when it comes to the soundscape formed here, you're getting, a very unhinged sort of soundscape, one that's very hectic, one that jumps from trap to indie rock to psychedelic soul to jazz. I think that it works to his favor in the sense that it's hard to be bored sonically. I think him bringing Danny Elfman into the mix was a really good choice too. This is a guy that's worked on over 100 film scores, and when you really pay attention to the production, you're getting all these little extra elements. Like, for example, in Order of Protection, the intro, the thunderous sounds that really, set the mood.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting these like extra strings and elements that you probably wouldn't have had if it wasn't for his ear and him trying to make this sound so cinematic.
Even something like a Stop Snitching, speaking about those little elements, and you get the screeches in back, like sort of like those horror scores, right? And it adds to the darkness of the album. I love the dynamic range of the production all the way throughout it, right? Because on one song, like a Punk Rocky, for example, you get like this really light guitar riff that goes through, and then you go on to something like Shut the Fuck Up, and you're getting these huge alarms in your headphones and these banging 808s. Or if you want to go onto a Helicopter, you get more of like a traditional trap beat with these futuristic synths in the background and these heavy 808s, which I find to be one of the best beats off of this album. Then you go on to something like No Trespassing, and I love the way that this beat drop, or the percussions off of this song are monstrous, bro. And it's crazy that that's where they went with it, because I never would have thought that that's the way it would have all played out.
That's one of my favorite beats, No Trespassing. I love that kind of Bay Area bounce, getting these alarming sirens clashing with that distorted percussion, and then the bass line kind of just spurts in, and you're getting this wild chopped vocal loop in the mix too. Kind of reminded me of Testing sonically, that production. I love when Rocky tries to make these edgier, more unsettling beats. That's where he really thrives, in my opinion.
By the way, did you pay attention to the sample flip on Stop Stitching? The Leroy Hudson's Give This Love a Try sample. Did you go back and listen to it?
Yeah.
Crazy sample flip, bro.
Insane.
Yeah.
That was really insane. The whole Stoya flow beat to me, bro, was fucking really the best part of that song.
It was. It
that
carries the song.
ominous synth bass, getting the hard-hitting futuristic keys, just the right amount of distortion, and it feels like a high-speed drive in like Gotham City. It feels chaotic. It feels dark. Even the operatic vocals at the end of it, I'm like, this just feels really
tier.
progressive and really top notch. Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. How did you feel about the sequencing on the album? Because that was something that we spoke about even in the reaction.
I'll put the track list.
You'll move, I think intentionally, from two smooth, chill songs like Stay Here for Life and Playa, going into something like No Trespassing and Stop Snitching.
Well, I think you see it throughout the album. Like there's intentionality with the sequencing because, for example, I could give you a Shut the Fuck Up into a Punk Rocky and then back into an Air Force, and then it goes back into a Whiskey. So high octane energy, then it goes back down. High octane energy, then it goes back down.
Yeah.
And I think that Air Force actually plays really well into like the theme of the production of the album because that's the whole basis of the production of the song, right? You're getting these crazy futuristic synths, and then bang, bro, the guitar comes in, and then futuristic synths, bang, guitar comes in. And I like that duality of the beat. Is it my favorite beat when it comes to the futuristic synths?
No way.
No, but I like the intentionality.
Kind of sounded a bit like of a generic rage beat that like a Cardi or a Yeet would rap over, to be honest with you. But I did like the smoother section. It just, to me, as much as I love the beat switches from Rocky usually, that one, it didn't really feel as properly transitioned as it could be.
Yeah, some other stuff to talk about. Robbery samples.
Yes.
Thanalius Monk's Caravan. First of all, I love the original record. So when I heard it off the album, I'm like, fuck, this sounds so familiar. And then going back and doing the research.
Was it Monk or was it Duke Ellington? I thought that it was Duke Ellington's version.
The Who sample credit has Thanalius Monk's Caravan. Regardless, though, there's so many different multiple versions of different compositions. So it could be either one.
Yeah, not the craziest beat, but I just think it was cool to have rappers literally spitting over this 1930s jazz composition. I liked it for the originality factor more than anything else, you know?
I really like Claro's singing or the sample that they took for Don't Be Dumb and Trip Baby. Did you pick up on that as well? Crazy the way that they sort of like, it was almost like an Easter egg where now once you hear it, you can unhear it. So if you guys never didn't pay attention, go do so. And then arguably the best sample flip on the entire album is on the ends. Nancy Pretty's Ebony Glass. The way that they sample her line where it's like the whole plays into the end theme and everything, I thought was fucking genius, bro.
Yeah.
I really felt like that was one of the best sample flips on the album.
100%. Another big standout for me would have to be Whiskey Release Me. I like just the cloud rap vibes of that. And also the soft trumpet that you hear, the tempo switch ups, those eclectic strings, the dreamy backing vocals. This really reminded me again of that older ASAP Rocky sound that I grew up loving. Another big highlight, Shut the Fuck Up, which we kind of briefly spoke on. Just the most abrasive, noisy, industrial type of hip hop beat that would have been like one of the most accessible beats on like a Death Grips album, for example.
That's the way
like,
that
that's
I thought
kind
about
of
it. But there's like a sick, like futuristic vibe to it as well, with like a bit of the synth work on
the
it.
laser sound effects.
Yeah, it was super cool. Another beat that I really like was Order of Protection because you're getting these crazy backing vocals behind, and then you're getting like these marching band stomps, bro, that come in and out of the beat. So I felt like it added a really cool kick to it. But regardless, though, bro, like overall, this guy doesn't fucking miss on production. This guy's ear for production is stupid.
What do you have?
I gave it an amazing rating.
Amazing
bro.
rating. I have it as a great rating.
I gave it as amazing.
There were
rating.
some beats that underwhelmed me, like the Black DeMarco one, or Looking at a Punk Rocky, that I feel like was a bit one note. But ultimately, producers cooked on this, Rocky included, and it is one of the most, I think, unique soundscapes you'll find all year for mainstream hip hop.
By the way, remember when we were listening to Playa and we were like, bro, what's the whole kissing loop thing?
Yeah.
It's actually a Trey Songz song. I found that to be interesting. So like even like some cool little Easter eggs within the sampling of the album. There was also Air Force samples, the female vocal ad-libs on Bahamas off of Cozy Tapes too. So some like cool callbacks, like intentionality within the sampling of the album where I'm like, okay, this is sick. They took their time with this and they definitely took time to put together this soundscape. But replay value, bro. It's been 8 years, so I expect this album to be in your rotation. Do you think it will be, Lou?
You know what? It's tough to say just because with testing similar to this, the album was a grower. I appreciated songs as time went on. I grew off of songs as time went on. Like, this is one of those album experiences that it's going to shift. My feelings are probably going to shift over time. As it stands right now, I think the replay value is pretty good. I think it's pretty good. You're getting certain tracks that I feel like you are getting an average Rocky in the sense of like a Helicopter. I've gotten that style of Rocky. He's executed on it better in the past.
I've been junking that song.
Great beat, but I'm not really going to revisit it all that much. A Punk Rocky, same situation. When I have a Sundress in rotation, I don't need to go to Rocky for something like a Punk Rocky. Ultimately, songs that I would keep, I'll just take you through those.
Yeah, let's
Order
do it.
of Protection.
W.
I have Helicopter.
W.
I have well, Helicopter's so-so.
Iffy.
Stolia Flow.
W.
Stay Here for Life.
W.
I have Playa.
Mm-hmm.
I have No Trespassing. I have Stop Snitching. I have Whiskey Release Me, and maybe The End. Those are the ones that I'm looking at.
Okay, so I kept
About half the track list, give or take.
I
Maybe a bit more.
kept 10 out of 15. So I
Well,
kept,
no, include the bonus songs
so
for
10 out of
replay.
17 then.
Okay.
So I kept Order of Protection, Helicopter, Stole Your Flow, Stay Here for Life, Playa, No Trespassing, Stop Stitching, Whiskey, The End, and Fish and Steak. So that gives me 10 out of 17. But other songs, for example, like A Robbery, or should I say like the Don't Be Dumb dual track, it's not that I don't enjoy these songs. I actually spoke highly of them in this review, but I don't know if I'm going to be revisiting them as much. So that kind of lowered the score for me. I could have seen this going up to an amazing rating because the songs that I did mention, I'm fucking here, bro. It's been a weekend full of bumping these records, and I absolutely love them. But I gave it a great rating because it's only 10 out of 17. I can't go amazing because amazing would have to be like 13, 14, let's say, out of 17, where, bro, there's only maybe 2 or 3 songs that I'm not keeping. But considering the songs, like, let's say a portion of songs that I'm not keeping, but that I still do appreciate, and the fact that I'm still going to be doing a start to finish listen on this album multiple times, and I do have 10 amazing tracks to keep out of it, I went with a great rating. I thought that was fair.
Yeah, I have a good rating here, and it's because I'm saving for now about half of the track list, but I could see those numbers maybe going up by a track or two as time goes on. So instead of a mid, I'm like, a good rating is fair here.
But mid-rating,
especially
you have to be keeping like a 5.
about half. No,
Yep.
mid is like mediocre, right? Like it's like you're keeping like 50% maybe. That would constitute as mid, the way that I see it. But let's talk about our overall thoughts on the album. I'll say this. It's interesting to me that right now Rocky's dropped 2 back-to-back albums that have people really split. I think that just speaks to his audaciousness as an artist, bro, and his desire to put the art first and not really chase numbers. That was something that I was really happy about, is that there were so many easy shortcuts that he could have taken, from the feature list to the types of sounds he included on this album, to really make this the biggest album that it could be. And no, he went the artsier route, and I feel like that is really appreciated. Ultimately, I think Rocky made a fun album. You're getting that return to his braggadocious, swagger-filled style of rap that really took shape in the 2010s. I'm happy that's back at the forefront of hip-hop. Also, a decent amount of songs that knock in the fucking whip. This is not an album to play off your phone. Do not do it to yourself. That's not meant to be listened to in this way. This is going to be great for live shows, in the whip, being fucking blasted. And when it comes to all the experimenting Rocky does here, not much of it really feels brand new or cutting edge, which is a bit disappointing. I would have liked to have seen more of an evolution from Rocky after all this time. The genre hopping and, sequencing feels random, but that's kind of the intention, is to give you this roller coaster of a ride, take you through different vibes, different emotions, even if it comes off a bit messy. What really disappointed me was the songwriting on this album, just because, a lot of it is still shallow, is still superficial, and I thought that, like he said himself, it was going to be a more mature chapter for him, but he didn't really go in depth with these subjects. Also, I'll say this, I'm happy he didn't include the bonus tracks as part of the main track list. I thought those were some of the weakest on the album. On something like SWAT Team, I feel like he sounds horrible on that track.
It's crazy how like a bit like just a separation in discs could make you sort of separated from the main track list.
For
I find
sure.
that to be a sick tactic.
But yeah, ultimately, I tried to judge this outside the context of the 8 years and all the expectations I had for this Rocky return. And even doing that, I don't know. I just feel like he's not, even though he's trying to sound fresh, he's not pushing boundaries the way that he once did. But the album was a good time. It's a good rating for me.
My overall thoughts throughout it. I felt like, especially as a Rocky fan, 8 years was a long time for this album. If this would have dropped maybe in 2022, because that does play into my expectations and it plays into my listening-ship, right? Like, at the end of the day, I am a fan, I am a listener, and like, you want to go in after 8 years and just be like, okay, fuck, like, this is crazy. Same thing like as if you were to go to the GTA 6 and you got all the same maps almost, and you got like sort of like these minor upgrades and these minor tweaks, you would feel somewhat disappointed. I felt like that mostly on the content matter side of the thing, of the album, right? Because like I said, in the content, you have him recycling topics. Yes, there are certain songs that go into some of the themes that he talked about in previous interviews, right? Like fatherhood and him in the situation in Sweden and his boys ratting on him. Like all those types of different topics would have been great if he dove in a bit more. So I feel like that's the part of me that's a bit, I would say,
Underwhelmed,
disappointed.
yeah.
Yes. But when it comes down to the production, his bravado and his cadences, I like the experimentation, some of the song concepts, the great feature list. I'm like, okay, you know what? This isn't a complete disappointment, but actually an album that I'm really going to enjoy this year. So that's where I sort of put away the 8 years, where it's like, what do I got here? And I felt like I got a great album. I felt like I got amazing curation when it came to the production. I feel like this for me is going to be an album that's going to be hard to beat from other rap albums' perspectives when it comes to the production standpoint. The features to me might have been a tad disappointing when I saw them on the billboard, but at the end of the day, they were well curated for this track list. I just wish it would have been a bit more on focus with the content matter, but besides that, it's a great fucking album. I'm gonna enjoy it this year, and shout out to Rocky and shout out to the entire team. They released an album this year that was anticipated, and we finally got it. So now the pressure's off. We finally have Don't Be Dumb, and it's an exciting way to start off 2026. But guys, the fun does not stop here. As I said at the beginning, if you guys want to see our first live album reaction to Don't Be Dumb, it's available on the Patreon plan. Also, I will say this. J. Cole's The Fall Off, February 6th. Guys, you have to be there. I think that's going to be one of our most legendary reactions in the entire catalog. So if you're thinking about subscribing or thinking about maybe leaving the Patreon plan, just stay still. Stay subscribed because everything's going to be going down in the next couple of months. We appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.